Merhabalar herkese. Hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün Türkiye'de bir ilk University of Oxford Uluslararası Ofis Temsilcisi James Riley, IEFT Talks'ta University of Oxford'da kabul olanaklarını anlatıyor olacak. Aynı zamanda alt tarafta çeviri butonunu aktif ederek Türkçe altyazılı olarak izleyebilirsiniz. Sorularınızı soru cevap bölümünden yönlendirmenizi istiyoruz. Sunum sonrasında James bütün soruları cevaplayacak. Herkese iyi seyirler. Thank you, James. You're muted.
Sorry, it always happens that. Sorry. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak to you all today. I'm delighted. Yes, my name is James. I am an international student recruitment officer based at the University of Oxford. So it's fantastic to speak to you today. I know one of my colleagues came out and visited some of you, maybe some of your parents, some of your teachers and counsellors earlier on in the year. And this session was kind of brought about off the back of that. We thought that was such an engaging session. We hope you got a lot out of it. So we wanted to do a little bit more today for those of you who are unable to attend, or for those of you who missed us out being in the region. And we're going to talk to you today about applying to the University of Oxford. The application process, we'll have a look at some statistics, some numbers, and we'll think about how you can strengthen your application as a whole. So if you are considering, I would say any university in the UK, hopefully you get something out of this. If you're considering Oxbridge, then it'd be a little bit more pertinent. And of course, if you're considering Oxford, you're in exactly the right places. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I believe there is a Q&A box open as well. There's a chat. So if you do have any questions, please do just pop them in the chat, and then we've got some time at the end to answer some questions there. But if it's okay with everyone else, I'm just going to jump straight into it, and we'll get going. So I prepared this session and we're going to cover a few things. Overall, this is a session about the University of Oxford. But remember, if you're applying to any university in the UK, hopefully you'll get lots of the information will be transferable. But of course, we'll talk with you about the Oxford application process. We'll talk about supercurriculars. That's my number one tip to strengthening an Oxbridge application. And then finally, we're going to look a little bit more into the backbone of an Oxford education, and that is tutorials and interviews. So in case any of you haven't heard of the University of Oxford, we're really proud in that we have been ranked the world's #1 university in the world for the last 9 years running. That's according to the Times Higher Education World Rankings. Other league tables are available, but this is the one that we like, mainly because we're always at the top of it. We're an incredibly old university. We're incredibly academic. We've got undergraduate programs across the social sciences, medical sciences, MPLS, which stands for mathematical, physical and life sciences, but it's typically your STEM subjects, so your mathematics, your engineering, all of your sciences, those kind of things. And then we finally have a further division in the humanities, things like history, English literature, classics, philosophy, all of those kind of courses. If you've ever visited Oxford before, you'll know that we are not a campus university. There's one place that you can go into the city where this is the University of Oxford. Instead, we are what's known as a collegiate university. This means that we're made up of about 30 different undergraduate colleges that are spread out across the city. We're made up of our departments, which are also around the city. We've got over 100 libraries in the University of Oxford. And that also makes up our museums, our gardens, our libraries, our spaces, our sports facilities, everything that falls under the umbrella of the University of Oxford. Another thing we're really pleased with, and we're quite proud to talk about, is the level of student support that we can offer students at the University of Oxford. All of our students will have their own their own academic tutor, and this person will be in charge of their tutorials. So they're tailored and personalised learning to be with them throughout the entire course of their degree, speaking to them about what they've been reading, what they've been studying, setting them essays, writing them problem sheets, generally being that supportive voice, and so that when students are able to go to their final examinations, they're able to do the very best that they can. We also have a fantastic careers service. So we work with a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, a lot of charities, and we help students get set up with careers post Oxford. This is something that lots of our students will take advantage of. You don't have to take advantage of it, but if you want help getting set up with internships, with working on skills, with careers and guidance supports, CV building, all of those things, then that's another thing our careers service offers. But then also finally, the health and well-being support that we offer students here at Oxford. It's incredibly important to us that our students enjoy their time whilst they're here with us. That we are an incredibly academic university and we expect our students to work hard. We typically advise our students to work about 40 hours a week on their academic work. So you can think of that as almost Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So there is a lot of academic stuff that's going on. That's being in tutorials, that's being in seminars, being in lectures, working in the library, doing their own independent research. And we know that that can be quite a lot. So we offer fantastic health and wellbeing support to help you as students do the best you can at university. So if you feel like you need to talk to anyone about anything, maybe a bit more personal, maybe not as academic, maybe if you're struggling, maybe if you're a bit homesick, or if they've got any other issues that are going on, there's so many resources, both in college and at the university, that our students can speak to help them with their university journey. Now, I mentioned it at the beginning. Oh, sorry, I'm going all over the place here. Now, the backbone of an Oxford learning degree is the tutorial system. Now, if we're thinking about any university around the world, I would argue that the most important decision that you are going to make is which course to study. Every university will probably say to you, you need to be passionate about your subject. You need to genuinely love what you're doing. I think that's particularly true at the University of Oxford because what I just mentioned, it is incredibly intensive. We have 3 8-week terms. These are short, sharp academic periods where we'll expect you as students to work quite hard. And if you're doing that for at least 3 years, then you have to be completely comfortable that you've chosen the right course and that you are genuinely excited about the prospect of being engaged with and speaking to like-minded people and having access to all of these resources and thinking about your course for the next 3 years of your life. So you have to make sure that the course you choose is the right course for you. Now, as I mentioned previously, the tutorial system, incredibly important at the University of Oxford. Now we call tutorials, they are essentially conversations. So all of our students will have an academic tutor. The tutorials are usually between 1 academic to maybe 2 or 3 students. And these will be independent from lectures, from seminars, from lab work, and everything else that our students do at a department level. Now, these tutors are going to be assigned directly to the colleges, and they're going to guide your students through their course. They're going to be there to advise them on what they're reading, on perhaps problems or areas where they think they might need a little bit additional support. It's probably where a lot of the work that you'll do as students is going to come from. And it's such a key part of the Oxford teaching system. Of course, as well as tutorials, you're also going to have combination of seminars, lectures, lab work, language classes, whatever it is that your course entails on top of that. And of course, with any Oxford degree, independent study is very important. I mentioned that Oxford has over 100 libraries that are based here in Oxford, in the colleges and at the Bodleian Library. We're also a legal deposit library, which means that any work published in the UK, in English in the UK, the University of Oxford has a right to that text. So we generally say if you need a book, we've probably got it, or we can certainly make steps to try and acquire that textbook there. Now, it's important to notice as we go into the application process and when we're thinking about applying to the University of Oxford, that there is no typical Oxford student and there is no single experience at our university. If you look on our website, if you look on our online prospectus, you'll notice our tagline, Oxford is what you make it. What we will give you at the University of Oxford, though, is a stellar academic experience. You'll be with like-minded people on a course that you genuinely love so much, and you'll be able to study that and really dive into that headfirst for the next at least 3 years of your life. Aside from that, though, all of our students come from different walks of life, from different countries, have different interests, different beliefs, different backgrounds. And that is what I think what makes Oxford quite special, is that we admit students that we feel would benefit the most from the Oxford style of teaching, from the resources we have here at the university. But everyone brings with them their own sense of what it means to be a student at Oxford. There's a lot of exchanges of ideas. There's a lot of exciting conversations and seminars and research groups and all different things that go on. And that's what our students really enjoy being a part of. It's not just all academics, though. We get a lot of questions, is studying at Oxford just books and studying and sitting in the library all the time? Of course it's not. Remember that 40 hours a week I mentioned? If we think of that Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, that means our students genuinely have their evenings and their weekends to do whatever they like with. Of course, there might be times where you might want to put those extra few hours in the library to make sure that essay is perfect when you send it in. But of course, there are lots of clubs, lots of societies, sports teams. We've got a really kind of thriving student city. We share the city with Oxford Brookes University as well. So there's a lot of kind of young people and a lot of students within the city, from restaurants, bars, nightclubs, art galleries, museums, lots of things to kind of unwind, to spend time with your friends, and to just enjoy your time living in Oxford as well. Now, that being said, I know I mentioned in the previous slide that there is no one single Oxford student, and that is absolutely true. But what all of the students which we admit share are these three traits. All of them will have a love of learning. That's what our university is built around. We want students that are teachable, that have that love of learning. They're excited by the prospect of learning more about their subject, of being challenged and pushed in that academic interest, perhaps more than they ever have been up until this point in their life. They've also got a passion for their subject. You've got to love learning about what you're studying. So thinking about, can you kind of go the distance with it? Are you going to be in love with this subject for the next 3 or 4 years of your life? Is really important as well. And finally, this final idea of intellectual resilience. And what I mean by this is being comfortable with being challenged on what you do and what you don't know. As I mentioned, there's lots of conversations that happen around the university. There's lots of different viewpoints. There's lots of new theories and things coming out all the time. And our tutors and other students use these to develop and to strengthen their engagement with their particular course and everything that goes along with it. So when we're writing our applications to, again, any university, but particularly the University of Oxford, we need to think about how we're going to make our personal statements and our interviews and everything else stand out so that we're getting across this type of information. Now, before I jump into the actual application process, I want to talk a little bit about individuality. And again, it is important when applying to the University of Oxford. We really do value our students' individuality. We know that our courses, because of the small group nature and the tutorial system, we want students to be involved in that conversation. We get thousands and thousands of applications every year from brilliantly qualified candidates. And unfortunately, we have to turn them down. And it might be because even though they could be incredibly academic on paper, they might be the type of student that just learns better, that studies better, that is just flourishes and is more themselves, maybe sitting at the back of a big lecture hall with hundreds of people in it and absorbing the information, just making their notes and just getting on with it quietly. And that's absolutely fine. There's lots of fantastic students like that. But that's not what we offer here at the University of Oxford. We really want to get to know you behind your application and why we think you'd benefit from the tutorial style of teaching, the small groups, and the community that's going on at the university. So when we're thinking about our application, we have to be quite clever on how we're going to get that in. Because if you've looked at the UCAS application, there is no one area where you can put that says, how good you are at working independently, that says how engaged you are with your course. You have to be clever on how you're including that information. And the 3 ways to really do that is in your personal statement, which of course you write as students. You will talk about your passions, your interests, your supercurricular work, and why you want to study that particular course. Your teacher reference, which admittedly you can't really do much about yourselves other than just convince your teachers and just show them what a fantastic student you are. And then finally, at the interview, where you will speak to Oxford academics, to people who manage the courses, who run and teach on the courses. And you have to remember that they are looking for students to come onto their course who they feel would benefit from the University of Oxford and who will be able to teach. So what are we looking for then in our applicants? Few things. I mentioned those 3 traits, really, really important. These are other things that our tutors are going to be looking for. Now, on our application system, exactly the same as the other three points, There is no one area where there was no box that our academics ticks which says yes, this candidate has academic ability and potential, yes, this student has a keen willingness to learn. So again, it's thinking about how we can get this across in our UCAS applications. But what our tutors are looking for, we are looking for we need to know your academic ability and your potential. That's a really, really key word here. We know what your ability is. We can see your predicted grades. We can see how well you've done in high school. Your potential is how well we think you could do at the University of Oxford. And we get to know this by how you present yourself, by your curiosity and openness to new ideas. What else have you been doing outside of your schoolwork, which shows us how curious and how much of a genuine passion you have about your particular course? This is often shown through supercurricular engagement, so everything you do outside of your schoolwork, which directly contributes to and strengthens and deepens your engagement with that particular course. That's what we like to see. So we're thinking books, competitions, reading, listening to podcasts, academic clubs, those kind of things. And you need to show us that you have a really keen willingness to learn, because I can guarantee you, you will learn a lot at the University of Oxford. And that is, that is what our tutors are going to be looking for as they go through, again, the thousands and thousands of applications that we get every single year. So let's just go back a bit and think about course choices again. And remember what I said about choosing which course to study is the most important choice to make if you are hoping to come to the University of Oxford. So if you're watching this as a student, then the 3 questions that you need to ask yourself is, what interests you? What subjects are you currently studying? And what careers are you interested in? If perhaps you're a parent or a guardian, or the carer of a child who is thinking about the University of Oxford, you need to get them to think about these questions. If you come to an interview and you are asked by an interviewer, so tell me, why do you want to study medicine? And then the student says, because my mum wants me to become a doctor. That's not a good enough reason. We need to know why that particular student wants to study this particular course, what drives them, what inspires them, and how they can evidence that. So what interests you as a student is really, really important. Of course, you need to think about what subjects you're currently studying. Main reason I say this is that some of our courses will have subject-specific courses that you might need to be studying. Of course, if you want to hope to apply for maths, you're going to need to be studying mathematics, those kind of things. The final thing you might want to think about, but again, you don't have to at this stage, is what careers are you interested in? Is there a particular vocation that you want to go into and you think, right, this will really well set me up after my time at university? Then that's a fantastic reason to pick a course as well. But if you are not at that stage yet and you think, I don't know what I want to do yet, that's absolutely fine as well. Focus on the course that interests you the most. What subjects are you currently studying, and what are you excited about spending the next 3 to 4 years of your life studying? And then once you get here, we can work with a career service and we can help you get set up with employment after university. So those are the 3 questions you need to be thinking about. Now I'm also going to show you some of our courses that we offer here at the university, not all of them, but I think it's interesting to highlight what I just said there. Now, we get about 25,000 applications every single year from across all of our courses. And we get these from incredibly competitive candidates. And unfortunately, we have to say no to most of them. So when we're thinking about our courses, we have to make sure that 1, it's the right course for you. And 2, why are you applying for that course? What you can see on the screen is our top 5 course choices by application. So we receive the most applications from international students for PPE, for economics and management, for maths, for law and engineering science. That's where we get the most applications from. And so what I want you to do is think about, if you're thinking, right, I think I might want to study PPE at the University of Oxford. If you love philosophy, you love politics, and you love economics, you love the intermerging between them, you love thinking about how societies work, and you love reading about that, then that is absolutely the right course for you to go and study. If, on the other hand, you're thinking, I think I'll apply for PPE because I know it's quite a famous course, I know a lot of famous people have gone on to study that and then become quite successful afterwards, that's not a good reason to apply for it. And you have to be aware that it is the course which we receive the most applications for. when applying. So that's top 5 of overseas students. I've also put the top 5 for students from Turkey as well. So again, PPE is number 1, economics and management, then engineering science, then law, then computer science. They're the courses we received the 5 most the most applications for. I've also included the UK's just students from the UK in there as well. And what's interesting in this is that medicine is number 1. Now, I expect to see this because unfortunately, medicine is the only course at the University of Oxford where we have a cap on international students. So essentially what that means is that we're only permitted legally by the UK government to admit about 16 students for medicine in any given year who are from overseas, who are international students, which makes that already competitive cohort even more competitive. So again, if you love thinking about medicine, you want to become a doctor, and this is what you live, you dream, you sleep about it, and you can't wait to learn about it, absolutely apply for that, because you could be one of those 16 people. But again, if you're thinking, I want to apply for medicine at Oxford because it sounds like quite a good course, then perhaps that's not a right reason to do it, because remember, it's incredibly, incredibly competitive. And I want to make sure that you have the most informed choice that you can possibly make. I've also broken down this a little bit more by just looking at international students, and this shows the top 10 most popular courses that we offer here at the university as applied to by international students. And this also shows us our shortlist and our offer rates. Now, shortlisting, all that means is that our students have been invited to an interview. So you'll see most students don't even get an interview at the University of Oxford. The offer rate is how many offers we make out, how many students are successful in receiving an offer from the University of Oxford. So if we think of that most popular course, the course which we received the most applications for, 26% of those students receive an interview. So, that's about 75% or 3/4 we immediately say no to, again, because it's so competitive and we only have a limited number of spaces. Of the entire cohort, 9% of students who apply for that course get made an offer. Now, I don't show you this to scare you. I don't want you to see this and think, well, it's so incredibly competitive, I'm not even going to bother. The way of looking at this is not to think, right, if I apply for PPE, I've got just under a 1 in 10 chance of getting in. The way to think of it is that I need to make my application stand out, and I need to make the best application, the most competitive application that I possibly can, so that I'm in that 9%. That's the way to do it. This isn't a numbers game. This is more about you putting your best side forward and showing us how you'd be a fantastic student at the University of Oxford. I'm also going to go over the application timeline because I think it is important to understand why it's different to other UK universities and exactly what we're looking for at each stage. Now, you might have seen this already, and if not, I advise you to work with your guidance counsellors and your teachers to kind of understand this and think about how we can prepare for this. But the key thing you need to know is that the UCAS application for Oxford, for Cambridge, and certain other medical schools is much earlier than other UK universities. You need to submit an application by the 15th of October, the year before you intend to join us. So if you're intending to come to Oxford next year, you need to make sure your application is submitted, finalised by the 15th of October this year. First thing you need to do is work on your UCAS application. UCAS is the university admission system which most universities in the UK will use. This is where you'll choose your course. You'll either choose a college or you'll write an open application. You'll write your personal statement and you'll organise your academic reference as well. Now, some of our courses might require you to take a test. It's your responsibility to make sure that you're registered for those and anything else you might need to do. Do you need to take a test? Do you need to write any written work? You need to find out what it is you need to do and understand whether you need to do that or not. And then you can submit it from early September, and then you can it has to be in before the 15th of October. Now, some of our courses will ask you to take a test as well. All of this information is on our website. If you go to our course pages, it tells you exactly what you need and when you need to submit it and how to prepare for it. Now, these tests are designed to be difficult. They're designed to be quite advanced level tests, which just give us a bit more extra information about your academic ability, about how you respond well under pressure in quite a tricky academic example. Now, the best way to prepare for these tests is to do the past papers. There are so many past papers online for all of our tests that you can have a look at. My advice to you is to sit down, do a test under exam conditions, work through it, and then mark yourself. See what you got wrong. See where perhaps you struggled a little bit. Are you fully familiar with the test? Revise it a little bit, and then go back and do another one, and then just rinse and repeat. And then eventually you will see yourself getting higher scores on those examinations. Some of our courses also ask you to submit a piece of written work. Not all of them, but generally, it's more of our humanities-based courses, because that's what it's testing. It's testing whether you can write a solid and a sound academic piece of writing in English. Because most of the courses that require written work, I can bet you that you will be writing a lot of essays on the course. I know it usually ranges between 8 and 12 essays a week, so we need to know that you're able to write a good essay. Not all of our courses require this, but some of them do, so you need to make sure that you're looking at that. Now, we use this first batch of information to go through our shortlisting process. This just means that we invite students to an interview. Now, interviews will typically happen in the last week of November or perhaps the first week of December. All of the interviews this year will be online. It might change in future years, but this year they're certainly going to be online, and it's going to be an academic conversation. I like to think of the interviews as that final piece of the puzzle, which kind of tells us, do we think the student will benefit from the tutorial style of learning? Because that's exactly what it's designed to test. It is a conversation. It's not a job interview. There are no right or wrong answers that people are going to score you on as such. It's going to be how you answer these questions, how you respond under pressure, and how you can kind of talk from A to B in your head and have that conversation with an academic, because that is what a tutorial is. And we need to make sure that you're comfortable doing that maybe once, twice a week for the next 4 years. We then look at all of that information together. Our academics will come together and then they will make their final decisions. There's a big deliberation process. We will assign students to colleges, and then we will make you, hopefully, an offer in January. Now, remember that most other UK universities, the deadline to apply is in January. What we do at the University of Oxford, you already know if you have an offer by January. So that means that by January, all the way to your final examinations, you can work as hard as you can to make sure that you're hitting those final grades. And then providing you hit the grades and you secure the funding, fantastic. We will see you in Oxford and we'll welcome you to the university, and you'll start on course in the following October. If anyone is thinking of deferring an entry, I always advise students to check perhaps with the department whether that will impact their application. There are some courses where it does, and some courses where perhaps it's not too much of an issue. I don't want to go into too much detail now into which do and which don't, but if you are thinking of deferring, maybe taking a gap year or a year out, have a look at that. The only other exception is national service. If you are from a country that does national service and you need to take your national service period in that window, then that is absolutely fine. We'll, of course, honour that. We'll make you an offer, and then we'll defer your entry up until that day. So when we're thinking about Oxford, then we need to think about what you can do now to prepare your Oxford application, whether you're thinking of applying this year, or perhaps you're just thinking about the University of Oxford. You might want to apply in the future. The first thing you need to do is make sure you're doing your research. You've done exactly the right thing by coming to this session this evening. I'm sure you've been to other sessions by other universities as well. And ask yourself, is Oxford, or is any university, which university is the right university for me? And am I applying to the right course? Remember that this is your decision. Of course, you can take advice and guidance from your parents, from your tutors, from your teachers and everyone else, but you need to make sure that this is your decision, because this is going to determine the next quite significant chunk of your life. Once you've nailed that down, you think, right, this is definitely the right university I'm going to apply for. I can't wait to study this course, and I'm making this decision. You need to make sure that you're achieving the best grades that you can. We do have particularly high tariffs at the University of Oxford, so we need to make sure that we are hitting those. I'll come on to supercurriculars in just a moment, but seeking out supercurricular resources to stretch your thinking is the #1 tip I've got for really making an application stand out and showing us how you'd be a fantastic student. And then finally, once you get there, try as many past papers as you can, although I say not too many, as I don't want you to burn out and just stress about it too much. Try as many as you can that you feel is making a positive and a beneficial impact on your results, and then practice those as well. For interview preparation, I advise you to practice talking your ideas out loud, talking to your teachers, to your friends, to your peers, to your parents, whoever that will listen, about your course and why you love it so much and the interesting things you've read and the interesting things you're doing in your schoolwork. That's the best way to prepare for an interview. Because remember that the interview is a conversation. It's a conversation about a subject that you are claiming to love so much. So we're going to talk about supercurricular activities. Now, when tutors are going to be looking at their application, they're going to want to see that you're really truly committed to your particular subject and that you're passionate about that particular thing. So we are looking for evidence that you've gone beyond your schoolwork, and we call these supercurricular activities. Now, the difference between supercurricular and extracurricular is supercurricular is essentially just taking your knowledge and engagement beyond what you currently do at school. So here we're thinking about your academic reading, your engagement with online courses, your academic competitions, your Olympiads, all of those type of things that really strengthens and deepens your engagement with your particular course. You might want to explore different perspectives in your subject. Of course, you have to think critically about what you're doing, and reflection is really important as well. Why are you doing what you're doing? How is this helping you on your academic journey? How is it filling in gaps perhaps you didn't know you had? And what new avenues is it giving you to explore? Extracurricular, on the other hand, is everything you do that's outside of your schoolwork that isn't really related to your academic work. So here we're thinking about sports teams, we're thinking about non-academic clubs, volunteering. I'm going to be completely honest, at Oxford, we don't really look at those in any real detail. Other universities will. So if you are applying to other UK universities, you might want to think about including some of those in your personal statement. But just know, at Oxford, we are only really interested in your academics and your engagement with your course. Good way to illustrate this is that we are looking for the most academically able students in the world who we feel would benefit most from our course. And let's say that you are applying for chemistry and you spend a big chunk of your time in your personal statement talking about how you're the captain of the soccer team. That's absolutely fantastic. Once you get to Oxford, you can play. There's lots of opportunities to play soccer. We've got lots of sports fields and loads of stuff out there. But by being captain of the soccer team, that tells me absolutely nothing about why you'd be a brilliant chemist. If, on the other hand, you talk about the books you're reading, the chemistry club that you'd founded at your school, all of the online courses that you're doing about chemistry and all of this engagement you're doing, that shows us why you'd be a brilliant chemist. That's the difference in super and extracurricular there. So when we're thinking about online supercurriculars, I get asked a lot, what's the best supercurricular for this course? What's the best supercurricular for that course? The best supercurriculars are ones that you enjoy the most, that you find engaging and that generally don't feel like a chore to go away and study. So think of them as self-directed and what you find interested, and really try and enjoy your exploration into that particular subject area. Now, often these aren't really high-flying, prestigious opportunities. We're not asking you to get an internship at NASA or to shadow like a really high-flying law company or something like that. What most students talk about is their wider reading. You'll be doing a lot of reading anyway at the University of Oxford, so showing that you're able to critically think about books and academic journals, the current affairs websites, blogs, all those kind of things, and how that's affecting your learning and your engagement with your course. That's probably the number one thing that our students mention. There's lots of online resources as well that are completely free. I mean, YouTube videos are fantastic, virtual courses, online projects. They're a really, really good way to discover perhaps new aspects of this subject that you're claiming to love. What we are seeing a lot of recently is podcasts as well, podcasts and audiobooks. So not everything has to be physically read in a library with a book in your hand. So there are podcasts on pretty much every topic you can think of. Find something that's interesting to you, and then that's just another quite enjoyable way of engaging with a particular subject and engaging with it that way. So there's some ideas there. Perhaps if you haven't thought about those before, that's what we can go away and think about. Now, I know we've got some questions coming in, which is fantastic. So I want to get on to answering those. But before I go on to that, I wanted to share with you something that I found really interesting, which I think helps demonstrate what we're looking for in an Oxford tutorial. Now, this is something that our tutors are taught to structure their tutorials around, and it gives quite a good example of what you can expect in an Oxford tutorial, the type of questions you might be asked, and how to go about building the knowledge and the skills you need in order to be able to do a really good interview. Now, what I've shared on the screen is something called Bloom's taxonomy. And this is a pedagogy, which is basically a philosophy or a theory of learning. Now, this person, Bloom, they came up with this theory that the human brain synthesizes information in these different levels. So they came up with these 6 different steps on a ladder, or steps on a flight of stairs. They said that, so first, someone will remember something. They'll remember a fact, and then they'll understand it. They'll know what it is that they're talking about. Once they've done that, they'll be able to apply it to a specific example. They'll then be able to analyze that and see, is that a valid thing to my particular argument? They'll then be able to evaluate that particular argument and say, right, is this actually benefiting to the point I'm trying to make? And then the top level of learning and information synthesis that Bloom came up with is this idea of creating a new piece or a new thing, or a new theory or a new idea that will be able to aid in a conversation or whatever. And this is how our tutors are going to be pushing you up that ladder in your interview questions to think about how your brain works, like how far you can get up that ladder and how well you can synthesize information and hold that academic conversation. Now, we generally tend to find that high school teaching tends to end around that 4th rung, the analyze thing. So if we're thinking about when we're writing our academics and schoolwork, we can probably recognize this. We talk about point, evidence, example. We're making a point, we quote a reference, and then we analyze it. We say, right, is this valid to what we're talking about? What Oxford's tutors are going to be doing is trying to push you up and climb those stairs to see how far your thinking goes when particularly faced with something new. So that's what tutorials are often about. They're going to be giving you new information. So typically when you go into an interview, you'll be asked a series of questions. Tutors are typically going to start by checking with what you do know and whether you truly grasp it, whether you understand it. They might ask you to define things or describe or explain key ideas in your own words, that kind of thing. And then once you've done that, they know that, right, this student is definitely on the bottom 2 levels of this particular ladder. Then they're going to push you a bit further. They're going to see how you use what you know in unfamiliar situations. This might be a response to a written piece. It might be a mathematical equation, depending on what course you're applying to. But you can expect to try and connect concepts, to spot patterns, to reason through new examples what you already know and think about how you can go about doing that. Once they're comfortable with that, they're going to try and push you even higher up this ladder as well. They're going to push you to maybe judge that particular argument. They're going to throw at you some other ways of looking at it and ask you to evaluate those. And then perhaps even innovate and then create some new things as well, or perhaps propose your own ideas. And this, I believe, shows genuine and independent thinking. Now, we can practice this a little bit as well. Before we go into some example questions, think about what this means to you when we go into an Oxford interview. As we go in, you can expect the tutors to try and push you. Oftentimes I hear from students and they say, I really started wobbling in that particular interview. I wasn't sure what I was being asked and I came away, I didn't think I did particularly well. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, because what the tutors are trying to do, they're trying to see where you start to feel uncomfortable. So they're going to try and push you higher and higher and higher until they get that reaction. So be ready to move up these stairs. Think about these key concepts and how you're framing an answer and how you're framing your particular point or argument, and be ready to move up those stairs. If in any doubt and you're not particularly sure, always start at the bottom. Think about what you do know. What particular fact do you remember? What books have you read? How can you understand that? Apply that to something else, analyze it, evaluate it, and then if it's appropriate, maybe propose your own perspective on there as well. And if you're unsure, remember that this is a conversation. There is just as much input from you as there will be from the academic. So talk through your reasoning, ask for clarification if you need, and remember this is an opportunity to have a really in-depth conversation about a subject that you really love talking about with a potential expert in that particular field. So the next part of this then, I want to share with you some example interview questions. And I don't know if anyone on the call here is thinking about these particular courses, but I've prepared a few, one for biology, one for economics and management, and another one for engineering. And when we go through this, think about what I was talking about with that ladder, with Bloom's taxonomy, and how we can go about thinking, right, how could I structure a good answer to this particular question? So a typical example for a biology question might be, why do some habitats support higher biodiversity than others? It seems a fairly straightforward question on the surface, but we know that there are lots of different ways that you could go about this. You could maybe start talking about macro or microorganisms. You could talk about different climates. You could talk about different evolutionary traits. You could talk about food pyramids, food chains, all of those different things. And then you can build your answer from that. What do you know the most about, and how can you structure your argument about that, and then build it up from there? Second example, economics and management. This is quite an interesting one. This question simply says, do bankers deserve the pay they receive? And should the government do something to limit how much they get? Now, I really like this question as it does impose a level of opinion. Okay, so with biology, there are answers to this question. This one is asking for your opinion, and it's asking you to back it up. So again, there are lots of different ways you could go about this. You could maybe think about societal capital, like societal value. Like, what are the different levels of value that a profession adds to a particular society? Does a banker give as much value to society as a nurse or a doctor or something like that? And if that's the case, do they deserve to be paid differently? Should the government do something? Again, it's an opinion. It's your opinion, but it's talking about how you feel government should interact with, you know, the difference in public and private sector, like how litigious we should be as societies in order to create equity or fairness, I guess. Final question then is engineering. Again, very different style of question, and I'm not an engineer, so I don't have an answer for this one. But this question simply is, how would you design a gravity dam for holding back water? Now, of course, with this question, you're going to have to think about what you already know about your physics and your engineering skills already. I'm assuming you know how a dam works. I'm assuming you know how gravity works. You know what the material it is you're holding back. How would you go about constructing that, building that? They might ask you to draw something. They might ask you to solve something in some kind of mathematical equation. They might push you on different aspects of it. How would it differ if you use a different material to build this particular dam you've posed? How would water pressure impact it? How much, you know, what all of these different questions. There's lots of different routes you can go about those. So you might want to kind of have a look at this. I will share the slides around at the end, and you can maybe think about some of these in your own time. Think about how we're going up that ladder in order to give a good answer to an interview question. And I guess note how all of these questions, they invite lots of opportunity to approach them from lots of different interesting angles. And I think that's what's quite fun and quite engaging about academic interviews. So go away and think about these questions if you are studying any of those particular subjects, or try and think of your own questions. You know, they can be open-ended questions. Think about what you know, what can you draw upon, how can you think about things that you've read or studied or whatever, and come up with a good reasoned, academically backed answer to your particular question. And that's everything I've got for you. I hope that was useful. We did we covered quite a lot there. We had a look at course choice and why that's so important, and I shared with you some information about different course options and how competitive they are. We spoke about the application process, so now you should know exactly how to apply to the University of Oxford. Of course, go away and study it a little bit more. Make sure that it makes sense in your brain. Ask your guidance counsellors for support and guidance as well. That's what they're there for. Get in touch with us as well if you want some specific information about a specific niche thing about Oxford that we might be able to help with, or just give you a bit more information. Have a look at that. We spoke about supercurriculars. Hopefully you're already thinking about what your supercurricular activities there are. You might have already got that as well and thought, I haven't really thought about supercurriculars before, but actually I'm already doing things. I'm already reading these books. I'm already engaging in my subject. That's fantastic. Go away and do more of that and enjoy the journey. And then I also shared with you a little bit about how to prepare and what to expect from an Oxford interview. If that's okay, Zainab, I will hand back to you and hopefully we've got some questions from the audience. So we've got some questions here from the audience, which is fantastic. I do have to apologize, though. I don't read Turkish. Zainab, you may need to translate some of these questions for me, but I will certainly answer the ones in English. Question here from Mustafa that says, if my high school is not an authorised test centre for Oxford admissions tests, what is the procedure for international students to register and take these exams in their home country? Now, that's a really, really good question. Our tests are delivered through a company called Pearson. Now, Pearson have test centres around the world. I know there is a big handful for them in Turkey as well, all around the country. How you do this is that you go onto the Pearson website. So when you register for your test, you will choose a test centre and you will choose a time and a slot, and then you'll go away and to take that. Now, how we do this is by dynamic interest, I guess. So if you go on there and there isn't a high school, there isn't a testing centre near you, then let us know. Let us know. And if there's more demand in that area, we will open up, or we will try our best to open up a test centre closer to you. Of course, we can't open up test centres in every city and town in the world because it's just not feasible. So if you go on there and it's just not feasible for you to go to the one that is suggested, let us know directly at Oxford, and we will try our very best to answer it there. But you can find all of this information on the Oxford testing page. I'll see if I can reply directly to that comment. I'm not sure if I can. If not, just Google or go on a search engine, Oxford admissions tests, and it will take you there. I'd also say work with your guidance counsellors as well. Again, this is what your guidance counsellors are here to do, to support you through these admissions processes. We work with your teachers and your guidance counsellors quite a lot as well. So at the University of Oxford, we really enjoy working with schools directly. So get there, ask them to get in touch with us if perhaps you don't know or they don't know.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation, James. So we have over 25 questions. I
Fantastic.
can directly read them to you and you can quickly answer if you want.
Absolutely. Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. So the first question is from Shevval, and she's asking, am I late to apply to the MSc programs for this semester?
MSc programs. I'm going to be completely honest with you. My role is purely undergraduate, so I don't know about MSc programs. My advice to you is to look on our website. They will tell you all of the dates and application processes for our postgraduate courses. I'm just having a look here. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't give that answer. I'll see if I can look one up in the background and maybe share it a bit later on.
Okay, so the next question is from Ahmed, and he's asking, can high degree students benefit from mentioned sports clubs or societies?
So sports clubs, I'm going to be honest with you, no. Just the example I gave, we don't care if you're really good athletes. We want to know about your academics. Now, that being said, once you get here, Oxford has some fantastic opportunities for sports. We've got our Blues teams, which compete nationally. We've got quite a few Olympians as well that have competed for their own countries, that make use of our sporting facilities. But in order to get into the university, we are only interested in your academics. Other universities, like I said, might look at that. So you might want to look at what other universities are requiring in their personal statements, and then include them if that is what they're looking for. But at Oxford, no, we're only interested in your academics.
Yes, thank you. And the next question is from Seda. She's asking, what advice would you give to applicants from Turkey and other international education systems?
Absolutely. I think the first step is just to know that there is no difference in the admissions process at Oxford for international students from Turkey or any other country in the world. What we're genuinely looking for it's the most academically able students who we feel would benefit most from the University of Oxford. So if you feel that you're a student that loves talking about your subject, that is genuinely excited about engaging with that particular course for the next 4 years of your life, then this is absolutely the right university that you should be applying to. Believe in yourself as well. It is incredibly competitive. So if I had some advice, I think just take all the competitiveness out of it. Just do the best application you can and try and be positive about it. I'm sure all of you will go on to do fantastic and amazing things, regardless of where you go. But hopefully, if we can, I'd like to see you here at the university.
Yes, thank you. And the next question is from Nazlı. She's asking, my son is in IB program. He's interested in computer science and has a high grade, 6.7. However, his selected course in maths is ANA, standard level. Is high-level maths obligatory for computer science major application?
Yes, so the computer science course at the University of Oxford is incredibly mathematically focused. So there is a requirement to do mathematics at IB at A level. You need to have the strongest qualifications of maths that you possibly can. And if perhaps you're not hitting that, I would do as much work to build your maths skills. Look at the IB programs, look at the A level further maths courses as well, just to kind of see what it is that perhaps you might not be covering, and then build on that, because the number one thing that our computer science professors look for is mathematical ability.
Yes, thank you. And Elif is asking, not all students might have IB high school diplomas. Is the review process any different for IB, A level, and or AP portfolio?
No, so the application process is all exactly the same. If a student is applying for A levels, we ask for between AAA to A star, A star A. If we're applying with international baccalaureates, we're looking for 38, 39, or 40 as a minimum. And then I have to admit, the APs have gone out of my head, but again, you can find them on our website, or you can speak to your guidance counselors and they'll be able to tell you as well. But IBs, A levels, and AP programs are our top 3 most common qualifications which students apply to. All of our academics are really familiar with the curriculums. So if you're studying one of those 3, that's absolutely fine.
Thank you. And the next question is from Enes. He's asking, what is the importance of attending global contests in the area we are going to choose? What is the difference between winning and just attending?
Okay, really good question. We get this one a lot. How important is it? It's based on what you get out of it. I would say that if you won a competition, but you didn't really learn anything, then that's not as important to us than not winning a competition, but you really engaged with your course and you were able to learn from it and you did all these things you've never done before. Just by the virtue of you winning a competition doesn't really tell us anything. Yes, you can write a good essay. Everyone at the University of Oxford can write a good essay, okay? What we want is for you to reflect on that. What did you get out of it? Did you engage in any new research skills? Did you engage in your course in a way that you've never thought before? Did you think about these new areas or things that were really, really exciting? Did you enjoy the research process and all of these things? That's what tells us you'd be brilliant, not by you just saying, I won a competition.
Thank you. And the next question from Avshin. I took a TESOL certificate from an American culture course, and I was told that Oxford University will provide me with online counseling. Would this be advantageous for me?
Oh, sorry, can you repeat the question?
I took a TESOL certificate from an American culture course, and I was told that Oxford University will provide me with online counseling.
Online counseling. Is this TEFL in terms that this is the English language test?
Yes.
Yes. So I don't know about online counseling. It's the first I've heard of that. We do have our students have access to counseling sessions. I don't think it's available for students pre getting into Oxford though. So I'm sorry, you might need to do a little bit more research on that, or maybe, sorry, I might need to do a bit more research. If you send me an email with a bit more information, I'll do some digging on it.
Yes, thank you. And the next question is from Ria. She is asking, while this webinar is very informative for undergraduate options, as a prospective postgraduate student, I am keenly interested in the MSc education program.
Yep.
Could you guide me on how I can connect with a program representative for further details?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, my role is strictly undergraduate recruitment. So my knowledge base on postgraduate courses isn't as strong as our undergraduate things. I do know, though, that the application process is similar. Again, we're looking for the most academically able students in the world who we feel would benefit from studying at Oxford. The timelines are different. My advice is, again, to go away and have a look at our website, and you can find all the details on there. In terms of finding program representative, things like that, I know lots of our departments, like the actual academic departments themselves, are really keen to hear from prospective students. They have whole teams that just deal with inquiries, that deal with helping students gather the most information they can. We understand at Oxford that our application process and perhaps the culture and the courses we do, they can seem a little bit confusing sometimes. So we put a lot of work into making sure that you're able to make the most informed decisions that you can. So honestly, my advice is just send an email to the particular department. You can find all of their email addresses online. They'll have a little contact me form, and then I'm sure they'll be happy to get back to you.
Yes, thank you. And next question is from Tuba. She's asking, what documents are required? My high school GPA is 81. What SAT and IELTS scores are needed? Also, how much are the tuition fees and living expenses for computer science?
Okay, lots of questions there. Okay, I'm going to go through a few things. So you mentioned about what documents are required. In order to get into an undergraduate study, we need just what I've spoken about there. That's what you need. You need to submit your UCAS application, which will have your predicted grades, your personal statement, and your academic reference. You might need to sit a test. You might need to submit some written work, and you will need to do an interview as well. So that's what you're looking for there. English language requirements. You are right. This is the only real difference for international students at the University of Oxford. You do need to prove that you are sufficient enough in the English language in order to undertake a course here. I'm just getting the information about English language requirements at Oxford up, and I can share that. But again, everything is on our website here. So English language requirements. So if we're looking at IELTS, so IELTS, we're looking for a minimum, so we're looking for a score of 7.5. If we're looking at TEFL, we're looking for a score of 110, and then there are minimum component scores in reading, listening, speaking, and writing there as well, but an overall score of 110. The reason we ask for this is that the courses are taught, they're assessed, and they're marked in English, so you need to have that strong level of English skill to be able to deal not only with conversational English, but also academic English as well. You asked about fees as well. Let me get those information up as well. Oxford International fees. Again, all I'm doing here is just Googling things, so you can go away and absolutely find these things. So overseas students here, unfortunately, the fee cost for overseas students is considerably higher than home fees students. So if you're an overseas student, you can expect to pay between £37,380 to the top level of 62,820. Bearing in mind that 62,000 is for our medicine-based courses, they just are more expensive, but around about £40,000 per year is what we charge for overseas students. Now, there are a few bursaries and financial things that are available that you can go away and have a look at. I would just, again, search fees and funding at the University of Oxford, click on the International Students page, and it will give you a list of all the scholarships, bursaries, and things that you can go away and have a look at. Two things that come to mind are the Reach Scholarship and the Ellison Technology Scholarship. And they're both full ride scholarships. They'll pay for your entire tuition, living costs, all of that stuff. But again, they are incredibly competitive to get, and there is an additional admissions process you have to go for them. But things are available and things are out there.
Yes, thank you. And we have another question from Ezgi. She's asking, what are the minimum academic requirements for students following the French baccalaureate? What should students focus on during their high school years to become competitive applicants?
Good question. So yeah, so we accept lots of different qualifications from around the world. The French bac is one of them. Again, I'm going to get this up here. So if we're looking at French bac, so we need an overall score of between 15 and 16.5 at a minimum. If you're doing the BFI, the Baccalauréat Français International, then it's between 14 and 15. If it's just the general diploma, it's between 15 and 16 and a half. I mentioned about specific grades you might need, specific courses. So if, for example, you're studying mathematics, you want to apply for mathematics, we'd need you to get a 15, well, either a 14 or a 15 in that particular course of what it is that you're doing. What was the second part of that question, sorry?
Just let me find it first.
Sure.
What should students focus on during their high school years to become competitive applicants?
Yeah, brilliant question. Really, really good. I think it's what I was saying earlier. Two things you need to do, well, three things, is make sure that you find the right university for you. You might be watching this presentation and it's really inspired you. You think, absolutely, Oxford is the right university for me. It might have gone the other way and you thought, actually, maybe University of Oxford is not for me. Either way is absolutely fine. And I want you to go away and find a university that's right for you. Once you've got that and you're inspired, you've got a target and you've got a goal to work for, work as hard as you can without burning yourself out in your schoolwork. Work with your teachers, work with your fellow students, your peers, and really get the best predicted grades that you're able to do. Universities are places of learning. Schools are places of learning. So when you're in high school, try and make use of the resources you have available, teachers you have, the access to the text, the libraries, and all the other things you've got going on, and do the best you can and enjoy the learning journey. Final tip I've got is the supercurriculars. Thinking about what you can do outside of your schoolwork, which strengthens your engagement with that particular course. Remember, if you're telling us that you want to come and be completely engrossed in one subject for 4 years of your life, then you're telling us that you love that subject. So finding something that you enjoy reading about or studying or whatever should be something that hopefully is something that's quite enjoyable, that's fairly simple for you to go away and do. If not, just throw some things out there and see what you enjoy doing.
Yes, thank you very much. We are coming to an end, so we have just a couple of questions left. And Sinem is asking, what are the most common mistakes applicants make in their personal statements?
Good question. Yeah, so we read a lot of personal statements every single year. I'm going to give you I know we're running out of time. I'm going to give you a very quick list. The first thing is not writing it in their own language. Not writing it in their own voice. Don't try and sound clever. Convince us that you love your particular. If you talk about a subject that you love, you don't need to try and convince us that you're clever. Don't think you need to use big academic clever words. As often it just reads a bit jilted and it takes away from your message behind it. Tell us why you love that subject. Be honest and make it personal. Second mistake I see is that students aren't going in depth enough about their supercurricular activities. Again, like I said earlier, just by mentioning that you've done something, it's not good enough. You need to tell us why that's important and why that makes you a good student in that particular thing. What did you learn from it? How can you reflect critically on this? But why is that particularly important? Just by saying I won a maths Olympiad, great. What was important about it? The third thing I'd say is something that we've been seeing honestly in the last year or two is the use of AI software as well. Now, I'm a big lover of AI, and I think ChatGPT is brilliant, and I think it can be a brilliant, helpful tool to help you research and brainstorm and do things like this. Our tutors have got quite good at spotting if we feel a personal statement has just been spat out from ChatGPT or something like that. Please write it in your own words. I can guarantee you that if you wrote an essay at Oxford using ChatGPT, you would most likely be caught out and you'd probably face some disciplinary issues as well. So it's not a good practice to get into. And we are we want to hear from you as a student.
Yes, thank you. And Bora is asking, in case one of the APs failed to 5, then is there any way to compensate this?
If one of the APs failed to what, sorry?
5.
5. Okay. I'm just going to get the AP things up here. So APs are, like I said, they are one of our most common qualifications which we get. So we do have, our tutors are very familiar with them. What we're looking for AP wise, we need at least 4. Well, yeah, we need 4 APs at grade 5 essentially. Yeah, 4 APs at grade 5, or 3 APs at grade 5 plus a score of 33 or above in the ACT, or 1480 in the SAT. So if you don't get all 4 and you've only got 3, as long as you've done the SAT and you score above 1480, then that will qualify you to apply. That will make your application competitive. If you haven't done the ACT or the SAT and you're not getting those 4 APs, I'm just going to be honest with you, you're going to struggle to make a competitive application. You are still able to apply, and our tutors will still read your application. But again, you have to remember that we're going to receive thousands and thousands of other applications from other students who do have 4 APs at grade 5. So it's up to you at that point to make sure the rest of your application is as strong as it possibly can be. You need to write the best personal statement that anyone has ever written. You need to have the most glowing teacher reference. You need to do the best you can in the tests, and you need to absolutely smash an interview. Yeah, I think that's just a good, honest answer there.
Yes, thank you very much. And the last question is from Elif. She's asking, what is one unique opportunity at Oxford that students often don't realize they have until they are already studying there?
I've never been asked that one before. That's a good question. One unique opportunity. I'll give you a serious one and I'll give you a fun one. Oftentimes when I speak to students, they don't know about the career service or they don't think about our career service until maybe their final year, because they're probably not thinking about jobs afterwards. And when they get to the end of it, they're thinking, okay, I'm finishing university soon, I need to get a job. And then they'll engage with the career service. But really, our career service works with students right from your first year. We can get you set up with internships. We can help you build a CV. We can help your interview skills. You can have one-to-one career guidance, things like that. So that's one thing that some students don't know until right at the very end. Other things is, well, I guess the more fun answer is some of honestly, the quite bizarre traditions that we have at the University of Oxford. Did you know that Oxford holds an annual tortoise race? I didn't until a few years ago. But yeah, you can go and watch all of the college tortoises race each other. And then, there's a big party afterwards. Did you know on Shrove Tuesday, so the day just before Lent, students in one of our particular college, they flip pancakes by running backwards around a quad. Why? I don't know. They just do. They've been doing it for hundreds of years, and I think they probably will until that. So there are lots of strange traditions that have just been built up from such a historic institution, a university, traditions that have been going on for years and years and years, and often you don't hear about it until it's already happened, and you think, why do we do that? But we just do.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much for the answers. You covered all of them. Thank you for your answers, and it was a
Fantastic.
great session, very informative for the attendees. And also I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Umarım sizin için de faydalı bir webinar olmuştur. University of Oxford ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için web site üzerinden iletişime geçebilirsiniz. Bir sonraki webinarlarımızda görüşmek üzere. Thank you very much again, James. It was a pleasure to have you in our IEFT Talks and look forward to welcoming you in our October events.
Fantastic. Well, fantastic speaking to you all. Thank you again, and hope you stay safe.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.